Welcome everybody to What's Up Fandom. My name is Josh, and no, we don't got to reclap. It's all good.
Oh, yeah, all right. I was all ready for it.
Yeah, it's all good. Welcome everybody to What's Up Fandom. My name is Josh, and I am joined once again by Jason Simpson.
Hey.
Nick Wolfhard.
Hello.
And Adrian Petriw.
Me.
It's our second Star Wars talk. So really what I wanted to talk about this episode was how did you guys really get into Star Wars? And then we're going to go into a little bit later, what is your favorite Star Wars? Like what's your favorite of the films? Like, do you like that prequel trilogy? Do you like that original trilogy? Do you like that sequel trilogy? Are you more a fan of the Ewok adventures? Do you like the in-betweens? Like, do you like the stories? Like, what's your jam? That's what we're going to be talking about this episode. So let's kick it off with the youngest among us, Jason. So how'd you get into Star Wars?
One of my earliest memory,
His earliest membrane.
My earliest membrane was of seeing A New Hope in the drive-in. So I would have been 2-ish, maybe closer to 3. I have some. They're fading now, but memories of sitting in my dad's car watching that. I don't remember any of the movie. I just remember the scrolling titles at the beginning. But from that point on, toys and watching the movies as much as I could, whenever I could. Going to my cousin's house, and they had some sort of super channel or something in the early 80s, whatever that was. And it was just on every 4 hours. So we watched Star Wars, 6 times a day kind of thing. It was a lot of fun growing up with that.
Nice. What about you, Adrian?
For me, it started with, so I've got 2 older brothers. They're 7 and 8 years older than me. And of course they were into Star Wars, but we had VHS tapes, and we probably owned like 10 movies. And I still do this to this day. I just always like having movies on in the background when I'm doing anything else. There's just always a movie on my TV. And it comes from being a kid that, I'd play with my toys whenever and something would be on, but there wasn't a big selection. There was no Netflix back then. We had the Star Wars trilogy. We had the Indiana Jones movies. We had Commando that was taped off of Super Channel. And then like Thunderball and Great Escape and whatever. Anyways, but so I remember, you're being a little kid and playing with the newer toys hadn't come out yet in the 90s. In the mid 90s, they were on the special edition. The toys were re-released. Right?
Yeah, and everybody was really buff.
Yeah, everybody was super ripped. I remember when those came out. That was a big deal. But I had all my brothers hand-me-down, beaten up. All the cockpit lids were missing of all the vehicles. But I had all of the 80s guys. And I would just sit there and watch it and play. And then, that was also the golden era of those video games, like X-Wing and all those started to come out. And so I just started to live and breathe it. And that's like my imagination. Some kids, it's cowboys, and some it's medieval fantasy and all that stuff. For me, it was all day, every day Star Wars as a kid. And then that just grew with me.
Nice. What about you, Nick?
That's awesome. When I was a wee lad, my dad bought the Star Wars trilogy on VHS. I think it was the set actually right before the remastered special editions came out.
The one with Roger Ebert, where he's doing the thing with George Lucas at the beginning.
Oh, it's Leonard Maltin, actually.
Oh, Leonard Maltin, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was a film person.
Yeah, and I remember that as a little kid, maybe I was just too young for it, but Jabba the Hutt scared me, first of all, as a little kid. And I watched, I think I probably watched them all, and I liked watching it with my dad, but I wasn't really into it until episode 3 came out. And I saw episode 3 in the theater twice, and I completely just fell in love with the entire series. I went back, and because I watched episode 3, I'm like, wow, how did this all happen? What led to this? So I went back and I watched the original trilogy, which I absolutely adored. I watched episodes 1 and episode 2, and I started to watch some of the cartoons. I think I actually watched Star Wars Clone Wars before episode 3, but I'm not sure. But that is how I fell in love with the series.
Nice.
Mhm.
I was a Star Trek kid growing up, so like to me, like Star Wars was like, yeah, they were cool movies. But I wasn't like, I liked them and like I played with the toys, but it wasn't, anything super great for me. Until the prequel trilogy came out. And I remember a friend of mine, his dad was in the Navy, and he took off and stood in line and got like 10 tickets for episode 1 for my family and his family. And so we all went, like I got taken out of school to go see episode 1 when I was a wee pup. And I remember watching that and then like falling in love with Star Wars because this was my Star Wars. So like that prequel trilogy like has a special place for me. And that like took me on this, into the books, like especially when, Attack of the Clones came out. I read any book that had like clones as like the main characters. That was all my jam. Like
Yeah.
them having like creating their own names. Like there was an ARC trooper who was like AN-8, and so his name like was Nate, and I'm like, that's clever. So like I loved all those types of books. And yet played the Republic Commando games, like that Jango Fett bounty hunter game, like Star Wars Bounty Hunter, where you're just Jango. That's such a good game for the PS2. Yeah, like I loved it so much. It was so much fun. And then I don't know, I got back into Star Trek, I guess. That was kind of like my Star Wars kind of fell off for a bit.
I remember now, there was one more thing I remember was Battlefront 2 just came out around the same time episode 3 did. And I played a ton of Battlefront 2. I had it on my Xbox and the PSP. And I'd play it with friends, and it was so fun. The original Battlefront 2. The new Battlefront 2 is like really good now. Like they did so many updates for that game and like so many new modes and characters and stuff. It's like it's different, but like the new Battlefront 2 is also fantastic. So,
yeah, like
nice.
I liked Battlefront 2 because I mean like you were basically the clones. That was the entire storyline. You are like the 501st.
Yeah.
Like I played the crap out of the first Battlefront, and I would just play as the clones because like their story mode was like you start off as like the Federation, and I'm like, I don't want to be the Trade Federation. I don't want to be a stupid who wants that? And so like I would only play Galactic Conquest. That was just like the skirmish thing, and I will always remember that guy at the beginning be like, in Galactic Conquest, and then that was like the beginning of the story. I'm like, I loved it. And there was a part where you could just like take over a world and be like, I remember like I hated playing on Kashyyyk because there was so much water and it was so big and it was so slow. So I would just be like, I would wait and be like, take over Kashyyyk, boom, just take it over. I don't want to play there. So like those were fun for me. Who was your favorite character growing up, Adrian?
Oh man, okay. Growing up, who would have been my favorite? I was always a Han Solo kid. Like I just thought, I don't know. I always liked the I don't know if anti-hero is the right word, but that scoundrel, that kind of rogue kind of archetype has always been my favorite in any movie. But yeah, I just loved Han Solo. I always just kind of wanted to be, because I mean, like I identified most with Luke, but I think that's why Han Solo was my favorite. You know what I mean? Because like I'm not Han Solo. I'll never be that cool. You know? Yeah.
You were more of that kid who likes to go and pick up power converters and everything like that.
At the Tashi station. Yeah, I know. I can waste time with my friends when my chores are done.
What about you, Nick?
Probably Anakin. He appealed to the he was introduced into my life at just the right time. He really appealed to the edgy 2000s kid in me. He likes to like be like kind of like a daredevil, but he'll also like sometimes like freak out when things are clearly not like fair and he's made even better in Clone Wars. But I also really have a soft spot for Luke and Obi-Wan. I think Luke is. Luke is obviously fantastic. Obi-Wan is too. But I think I'd probably say. You said growing up, right?
Yeah,
I think
we'll go
I
growing
think yeah, I think probably Anakin, Luke, and Obi-Wan. Ahsoka's in there too, and Yoda, of course, Yoda, yeah, and Palpatine. I don't know. There's a lot.
All of them.
But those are the main ones. Yeah, Ahsoka. The five are Palpatine, Yoda, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Luke, and Ahsoka. Those are the ones. My favorites.
I think for me, like, it was growing up, it was Obi-Wan. Just because, I mean, like, when episode 1 came out, like, young Ewan McGregor, I was like, man, that's my guy. So, like, that's when I tolerated Jedi. So, like, I liked, like, I read all those old, like, Scholastics Jedi Apprentice books with, it was like
I did too.
Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I loved those books.
Oh yeah, I read
Those were the best.
I read that too. Yeah, I love those books, and it went into Obi-Wan training Anakin as well.
Yeah, it was
I think
so
they did a
good.
second book. Yeah,
and then, like,
I
I
love those
kind
books.
of,
And Obi-Wan had like a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, like, that was the whole thing with, like, Obi-Wan. It was like he didn't think he was going to be a good enough Jedi, and so he was going to have to go to that, like, weird planet where they send all the planet of misfit Jedi, where it's just like a space colony, and they try, like, it's like on some, like, barren moon, and they try and, like, grow crops using the Force. And I'm like, this sounds terrible. Like, he was afraid Qui-Gon didn't want him, and he was gonna have to go there. And I'm like, bro, I get that. That would be a very tough life.
And the Jack in the Box from Rudolph's there.
Yeah, that's
Nobody
basically
wants
what
a
it
Jack
is.
in the Box for a Jedi.
They were like, there's like not even Padawans up there. Like, people who were like, yeah, we don't even want you. Like, no Jedi, like, no Jedi Knight or Master wants you as a Padawan. So they just ship you up to, stupid space rock. And then I moved into, like,
Obi-Wan.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say, didn't Obi-Wan have like a rivalry with like another kid in that book, and he accidentally killed him or something?
Yeah, it was a thing. Fun. I mean, it happens. You kids, you sleeping in these weird like catacomb alcove things where the Jedi just randomly put children, and sometimes you push somebody off and they die. It happens. But then I got into like the young Jedi Knight stuff, which was like the Jason Solo stuff, and that's where like Han and Leia's kids, and that's where I really got like really into it. Like, I loved Jason, because even as a kid, he was like yeah, like, being a Jedi is cool, but sometimes Jedi kind of suck, and we should be able to do different things in order to get better outcomes, which helps him later when he becomes Darth.
I don't remember.
Something or other. I
feel like Ben Solo or Kylo Ren he was partly inspired by Jason.
He was, yeah.
Because he started off as a Jedi, became a Sith.
Doesn't get killed by his sister, which that also broke my heart so much. Like, he turns back. He's like, everything he did for his family pretty much. And then he's like, oh, I'm back. I'm not evil anymore. Like, I've seen, the error of my ways. And then his sister's like, yeah, but you're still evil. And he's like, no, I'm not. And she's like, you are. And she kills him. And it's like, why? Yeah. He was okay. Man, fun times. What about you, Jason? What about you growing up?
Darth Vader.
That says
of
a lot.
Of course, Vader.
Darth Vader, 100%. And then very, very close second would be Boba Fett. The two most thrilling moments for me in my entire Star Wars experience, and this is going to be a spoiler for those who aren't caught up on the latest Star Wars viewing.
Season 2 is ended by the time this episode comes out, so
okay,
that's their loss.
The scene that I've watched over and over and over and over. It's only like a minute of screen time is at the end of Rogue One when Vader clears out that entire hallway of dudes.
Yeah.
It just the ventilation you hear, and that saber lights up, and that was I became a 10-year-old again. It was so incredible. And then, of course, the last episode.
Me and my uncle's. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The last episode of Mandalorian, or last week's, when Tamu Morrison shows up, and you just see Slave One, and you're like, yes, and Boba Fett shows up. I was screaming in my living room. I had goosebumps. I was probably almost crying. I was just so excited to see that character again in action. So those are my guys.
Cool. I remember we were in the theater, and me and my uncle's jaws just like dropped when we saw that Darth Vader scene happen.
Oh yeah, ditto.
We weren't expecting that. We weren't expecting that to happen. Everyone in the theater was like, what is happening?
I went into Rogue One not knowing anything about it. I wanted to know nothing, so I avoided everything I could. And my goodness, that was. I almost felt my heart stop. I was so excited to see Vader like that.
I love the part.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, the part where like that part where the rebel is like, we got to get out of here. Open the door. We got to get this disc through. And then Darth Vader shows up, and they're still like trying to open the door. And then eventually the dude comes to terms with the fact that, all right, I'm not going to get out of this alive. So he's just like, just take the thing, just take it. Just take the data disc, and he takes it, and he just gets slaughtered. What happens again? Like Vader stabs his lightsaber through the door.
Yeah, camera moves to the other side, and the guy's against the glass, and the saber goes roll through the door. Oh. That's so awesome.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I remember that now.
In that same moment when Vader, after he ignites his lightsaber, and he just does one like boom, and all the blasters just fly past him.
Yeah. That's when you're like, oh, guys, we're done. Like,
and he does this.
You're done.
He does this, and the dude like shoots up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
There's a great moment like that in. I was just. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I really, I know there's all sorts of stories of, Tony Gilroy was brought in to kind of jig parts of the third act of Rogue One and all this stuff, but I really think Gareth Edwards deserves way more credit than he's been given for what I thought was a movie on the whole that's just an excellent film, but also has some of just my favorite moments in Star Wars throughout. Like I remember, so there was that moment, but the moment that also I remember like getting like my heart in my throat and almost tears in my eyes with the score and everything all at once when the rebels come out of hyperspace over Scarif and come to the rescue. And like, cause the tension was really high and for the first time in a long time in a Star Wars movie, I felt, and of course ultimately we see like the heroes could die. You know what I mean? Like yeah. Mm-hmm. In the prequels, we know for the most part of the main characters who was going to live, who's going to die, and all. And I was just sitting there, and there was so much tension, and I just had this like, oh my God, they're here! Like it's that moment of relief of like the cavalry, like in Lord of the Rings when at the end of Helm's Deep when Gandalf shows up. I had that same like goosebumps of like that's heroism, like that's oh my God, and they just nailed it. They just nailed the direction of that.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I felt the same thing when that dogfight was happening. Like I remember just like I was smiling the hardest I've smiled in a long time, and I vaguely remember just like tearing up a little bit. I don't know why. It just my body just reacted that way. And then the trench warfare scene on Scarif. Oh my God, that entire third act is some of the best content in Star Wars like out there in my opinion, because it's a war. It's an actual like Star war. Like
and the hammerheads. Forget that the guys who take the Star Destroyer down, like by ramming into it, like it felt
by landing on it. By ramming into it.
It was like watching Dunkirk or something. Like it really like it just felt like, oh my God, these guys are. And then when you see when the camera zooms out eventually and you see the Star Destroyers colliding with the gate and exploding, that frigate's still there, like attached to it. So those guys went down with the ship to do that. And it was like, I don't know. And just that moment. And then the moment of that, I thought, everybody always kind of goes, Disney. But Rogue One is the Disney era. And that moment of Cassian and Jin on the beach with the
mushroom cloud coming towards them.
with the mushroom cloud
Yeah.
coming towards them was so unbelievably powerful. I couldn't believe
Yeah.
that they were allowed to
Mm.
do that. I thought
Yeah.
that was just so powerful.
I'd say that Rogue One is probably my favorite Disney era Star Wars movie. I think probably I'd say Rogue One's my favorite Disney era movie.
Well, they
Out of the
they do
bunch.
another good thing in that whole scene too. Like when the Rebel fleet shows up, they also hit you with that nostalgia too. When they're like, "Here's Red
Yeah.
Leader, here's Porkins, here's Wedge, here's Bit." Like they just
Did
like
Porkins
start
show
showing.
up?
Didn't they put Porkins?
Did
in
Porkins
there,
show
didn't
up?
they? I thought he
don't think-
did.
I
Or
don't
maybe
think
they called.
Porkins,
Maybe
They
they
probably
did
did.
maybe they did a call out.
but I
Maybe they did
liked-
give
I-
him
oh,
a
I-
different name.
I loved that inclusion, and the coolest thing was not Red Leader but Gold Leader.
Gold Leader, yeah.
His Gold Leader, yeah.
The original actor. No, Red Leader's in it too, but he was that actor's passed away now.
Yeah.
So it was purely unused
Yeah,
footage.
that's right.
And whatever done. But Gold Leader, the Y-wing guy, he's still around, and he re-recorded the dialogue because he's the one you hear him say like approaching the shield gate
Mhm.
or whatever, and they actually got him to record the dialogue for that.
Was that
Like the original actor? Like that's so
was,
cool.
was that Ewan McGregor's uncle, or is he Wedge Antilles? I don't remember.
He's Wedge.
I know.
He's Wedge.
Yeah, Wedge is Ewan's uncle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
brought Wedge back for the last film, didn't they? Didn't they bring?
Yeah, for like
Wedge
2 or
in-
3 seconds.
In
He was
Rise of
on screen.
Skywalker?
It's literally like blink and you'll miss it, but he's there for like a split second.
Yeah, like I think Poe's like "Welcome back, old timer" or some some Disney dialogue.
something like that. Yeah.
It's okay. I agree. Like I think movie wise, I think Rogue One of this new one is the best. But I don't know, like any time, like I really liked the Ben and Rey storyline in the sequel trilogy. Like I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Like
I
leading
thought
up,
the
going in from like Last Jedi into Rise of Skywalker, I thought that was really, really good. That was my best. That was the thing that I looked forward to. Like of all of Last Jedi, that was the only thing that I took away from it. Like I didn't really think that movie is worth anything after that. Without those scenes and shirtless Kylo, I was like, none of this really matters. And then this kind of the same thing with Rise of Skywalker. Like I don't like the rest of that movie is just kind of flat until like except for that dynamic that's going on. And the first one, Force Awakens, I don't know. I just didn't like it.
I'll say like from my part, what I'm sorry, man. What I liked, I agree. What I thought the sequel trilogy did well is I enjoyed the main sort of mythological sort of story arc for the most part. I think this all started when I was complaining about Rey defeating Palpatine at the end and the way she did it, which really bugs me. But for the most part, I like that aspect of it. What I didn't like about the sequel trilogy for me was that, and Rogue One's sort of the opposite, is in the sequel trilogy, the galaxy just felt so small.
Yes.
Like it just felt like I didn't feel like there was this big wider thing. It just felt like, I don't know, like it just, every single planet in it was just a barren planet with a little, outpost or something on it or wherever. And you didn't get the sense that there's this big wider war going on, really. Like it always just felt like the rebellion was like, or the resistance was like 12 people. And I get it, why, like story-wise, to build tension and whatever, but it just never felt like in Star Wars you had these heroes, but I also felt like there was this infinite galaxy moving around them with politics and conflict, and Mandalorian's got that feel too, right? Like I just felt like the sequel trilogy really lost that, and it became a little bit superhero movie-y in that sense. Anyways, that's my opinions.
I will say that I think Kylo is my favorite character of the new trilogy.
For sure.
Yeah, Adam Driver does like a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
I think probably one of my favorite things about the sequel trilogy is not just Kylo's relationship with Rey, but also his relationship with Han. Because one of my favorite scenes of that entire trilogy is that scene where right before he stabs Han Solo, he's like breaking down, and he's like, I don't know what to do. Like I want to come back, but I don't want to come back because like Han essentially abandoned him. Like he essentially ran away from his
And he does still
responsibilities.
think that Luke was about to kill him too. So I mean, that doesn't really.
Yeah,
help
there's
the
that as
process.
well. And then there's a bunch of stuff in the comics too where that I've heard where like Snoke really like appeals to him and like relates like, you know, some information, manipulates him basically. But yeah, and then there's that whole thing about, you know, like him telling Rey that like, you know, you came from nothing, I came from somewhere, but it was terrible. Let's just create, you know, a new future together, basically. But that future is not the right way of, you know, doing things. Like because you could clearly tell that like Kylo was just not in the right mindset at that time. Like he was borderline on just cracking. You remember that scene at the end of Last Jedi where he says more like that,
Yeah.
like, and Rey was like, nah. I mean, I would, but come on, no, we can't. No, don't do this right now. We just teamed up. Don't.
Yeah.
I like that scene a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and Kylo's acting and his dialogue, I really enjoy his character.
Yeah, I also think that Kylo is an excellent villain for our time, and the reason being is that, you know, I remember, you know, Force Awakens came out and everyone's like, oh, he's, you know, instead of Darth Vader, we get this like whiny young, you know,
we got Krylo.
kind of
I
whatever.
remember that.
But
That's what
I mean,
Anakin was that. What do you mean? Like,
sure,
Luke
sure,
was
but
too.
the thing was with the
yeah,
thing
Luke
with
was the same thing. Luke was also that.
Yeah.
Every Skywalker
Yeah,
is
Luke
that.
learned it from his
What is
dad.
the
They're all whiny.
problem?
yeah, but besides
at first,
that,
at least,
I think
at first. Yeah.
Yeah.
At first.
What is relevant, I think, to our day and age is, in my opinion, a lot of what's happening and what's taking, you know, things in a very bad direction around the world often are young men who don't know what to do with the pain and shame that they feel, and feel entitled to something, and also sort of idolize this idea of you know, the past. In this case, it's Darth Vader that he sort of idolizes. In some cases, there's this idea of a certain, you know, maybe past time in a country or whatever, you know, in our world. And I just think that it's the perfect, like he's essentially a guy who's becoming a fascist. And I think that's, you know, that's kind of perfect. And I thought it was excellent.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, Vader is like the only. There's no one he can relate to anymore because Luke almost killed him. Han abandoned him. Leia was busy with her New Republic thing. Literally, the only person that was left was Darth Vader, who is his grandfather, who is dead. And the reason I guess that appealed to him was because, well, he was powerful. I'll try to continue his legacy and be powerful like him. Like it's my at that point it was basically his only path. It was the wrong path, but to him in his head it was his only path, you know, and he was young and impressionable. So yeah, I think Kylo's story was very well done.
I think it also helps that and not to put Adam Driver too much on a pedestal, but the guy's a brilliant actor, and
he's fantastic.
I think he elevated, for me anyways, every scene he was in. I didn't find it maudlin. I didn't find it I found it so engaging to watch him as this very layered bad guy, but there was so much going on there. It wasn't just good versus evil. I mean, there was so much in there. So I think Adam Driver really helped for me to not stomach those movies, but really, really enjoy them. I always wanted to see him on screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry if you guys
He
can hear
really
the ice cream truck, by the way.
Oh,
What's
I
that?
couldn't hear it.
Okay, good. As long as you guys can't
ice
hear
cream.
it, I can hear
Oh.
it, and it's driving me crazy.
Well, it's an ice cream truck, so that's okay.
You said the ice cream truck. He I Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say. I was distracted by the ice cream
cream
truck.
truck.
I mean, I didn't hear the ice cream truck, but
See, you
yeah,
can't even
Kylo
hear
is.
it, and it's distracting. That's how distracting the
Oh
stupid
yeah,
ice cream truck
yeah.
is.
I remember what I was gonna say now. Like, I remember what I was gonna say now. Like, Kylo is like, he's not evil just to be evil. He's evil because he was neglected and he's very immature, but he legitimately wants respect. Like, he wants to be respected, but the problem is he's kind of mixing that up with love, because he was never loved as a
Yeah.
child or loved at all. And I think he got so obsessed with Darth Vader and like how everyone respected him and how everyone, would lay down their lives for him, that he thought that he could substitute it with a dictatorship, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and what I found unique about it too is that, he's not just like an Anakin clone, and that, Anakin went through what he went through. It showed what happens when good intentions go awry, because he's
Mhm.
acting out of love for Padme, but selfishly so, and to the point where,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
he does evil. Whereas
Well,
Kylo, what I really liked is that it's like, he has this, he sort of grows up with no control in his life over the things happening to him. He feels like he's constantly be done wrong by all these parental figures, and so it makes sense going down this road is he's obsessed with finding control, because it's the thing that he lacked in his life.
Yeah.
Security, safety, and all these things he can, he feels like he can impose because he's never had it.
Yeah, and just lack of love and empathy for himself, like in general, throughout his life. And yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that about Anakin, because Anakin actually does kind of go through something similar, but on a not on like a destructive scale, more so on like a mental scale. Like, pretty much the entirety of Clone Wars is basically Palpatine screwing with Anakin all the way through. Because he basically makes it so, yeah, like he makes it so that he sets up this whole plan where Obi-Wan would have to go in disguised, because Palpatine fabricated this plan where he was going to be assassinated. But the whole thing about it is, don't tell Anakin, because like he'll probably freak out. And Palpatine was told him, he was like, I don't think the Jedi are telling you that he actually might be still around. Like, why don't you go have a look? And so he essentially manipulated him, and then he's like, okay, well, you all just lied to me. And then there's also the whole thing with Ahsoka and Palpatine manipulating that as well, where Ahsoka was was about to be executed without the Jedi doing any real research, any real investigating or snooping. They were so under Palpatine's control at that point that they just didn't bother. And oh man, Anakin was like mad, like during that arc. There was this great scene where she's on trial, and the Jedi, and she's surrounded by a circle of Jedi, and she's like, we found the defendant guilty and will be sentenced to public execution. And Anakin, he says like, you can't do this, and he like legit like pulls out his lightsaber, ignites it, and like the clones have to just like actually like hold him back. It's this fantastic scene. Yeah,
that's why Jedi are terrible.
There's definitely
they should all be dealt with, and we shouldn't have to deal with them anymore.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It goes into that as well. Like you're saying that as a joke, but it does go into how...
I am not saying that as a joke. That's
yeah.
my thing. Like, whenever they talk about bringing balance to the Force, it's always like, yes, we have to bring balance to the Force. It's like, well, you can't have balance if you only have good and zero evil. Like, that's technically not balance. That's this one way up here and this one way down here.
I want to get you a T-shirt that says "Vote Yes" on Order 66.
I would, yes.
Yeah. Basically,
no,
Anakin...
because my boy in Republic Commando, Darman, he was married to a Jedi, and so like she was actually pretty good. So that kind of sucked. But no, I mean, like,
it's not a Jedi. Yeah.
Like, that's why I was hoping.
Oh well.
Like, sorry, real quick, like my last little tangent. That's why I was.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much anyway.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Like, that's why I was kind of hoping Kylo would have lived at the end of Rise of Skywalker, Because then it's like, okay, so he's been good and then bad, and he hasn't fully turned back over good, but he's seen the error of his ways. So he can do this new in-between path where he understands the lure of the dark side and he understands the calling of good, and he can walk this nice fine line. So like, that's why I was like, oh, that's perfect. He's the gray. He is this nice gray Jedi that can be a cross. And then they're like, no, it's just Rey. And that, like, really, I was like, oh, dang it. Like, Rey's cool.
They chickened out.
They
chickened out at the end of that.
Yeah. You know what perfectly encapsulates Kylo's like gray attitude, basically, I think, was when he went to go rescue Rey, and Rey passed him Anakin and Luke's lightsaber, and he had the lightsaber, and he was fighting the Knights of Ren, and before he did that, he was just like he went like that, you know, like, all right, here we go.
Man,
like,
here.
I think that shrug is just like, I guess I'm doing this. Like, I don't know what's, you know, I'm doing this for me and no one else at this point. So that, I think that was cool. But yeah, there's what I was going to basically just say was, Clone Wars delves deep into just how corrupt the Jedi became, because they're so under the thumb of the Senate and the politics. That's also another reason why Ahsoka chooses to leave, because they're so just like far gone from what they're supposed to be. And Anakin as well learns, like, over time, like there's this arc where, do you remember Saw Gerrera from Rogue One?
Yeah.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker's character. He was originally a Clone Wars character, and he was fighting a war on his planet, like a civil war, and the Jedi couldn't help because it's a neutral territory. But Anakin, the entire episode, was arguing, like, why does that matter? Like, let's just, like, screw politics. Like, people are in need. We need to, like, help them. And Obi-Wan was like, listen, dude, I know. I feel the exact same way you do, but if we do this, who knows what will happen to us? And then Anakin is like, okay, listen, though. I know this guy on the black market. We can go under pseudonyms. He can help us out. And so that was, like, a really cool way of Anakin starting to, like, you know, do things his own way and starting to kind of go against the Jedi in a way for his own, you know. Honestly, I think that was a smart move, because it just goes to show how.
Yeah, learned that from like the 3 minutes he was with Qui-Gon. Yeah.
Yeah, Qui-Gon, because like everyone on the council like hated Qui-Gon because he was so like, I'm gonna do things my way, and it's like, no, you can't just train this Padawan. You already have one. And it's like, okay, then my apprentice will do it, and it's like, what? He's still a Padawan.
Yeah, the whole we don't want you to. I don't want you to teach this kid, but I mean, I can't really stop you. And Yoda the entire time was just pissed because he was just like, it was his dying wish, but I really don't think it's a good idea because he's too old and he seems like he's really, really like emotionally insecure about everything. So
pissed I am.
Yeah.
Can we talk quickly about the thing that sparked my involvement in this, which is that moment at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and why it just, for me, I don't have a problem with Rey. I think the Mary Sue thing is a silly argument. I think that you could easily put that on Luke. What bugs me is the bizarre moment at the end of Rise of Skywalker where she does the I'm all the Jedi and blasts him to shit or whatever happens. And it just betrays the whole thematic sort of message behind, you know, at the end of Return of the Jedi, when Luke defeats evil by saying no to violence and throwing away his lightsaber, and, you know, ultimately saving his father, who then, you know, as an act of basically atonement, you know, throws the Emperor down the shaft. But that's sort of the amazing revolutionary kind of thing about the end of Return of the Jedi, is that the hero is just like, you know what? Fucking kill me. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna give in to anger. And for Rey, it was just like, the message was just like, well, this guy's really bad. He's like really, really bad. So like, it's okay. I get him.
I also think maybe it was a bit of,
I don't get the message on a mythological level. I just don't get. like that bugged me. That just really bugged me.
I sometimes like to think that because she's literally Palpatine's kid, that maybe that could be like she's got that Palpatine dark side blood in her. So I don't know. I mean,
But
she literally shoots force lightning in that movie, which is like a super forbidden technique.
Yeah,
by
it's like
accident.
super Sith. Like,
but they don't portray it as she's doing something wrong. They portray it as a heroic moment of her defeating Palpatine.
Oh,
Rather violently.
okay.
Do you know what I mean? So like that's why it's for me.
I
It's just
see.
like, yeah, I'm just like I just feel like that really kind of betrays the whole kind of message of the previous 6 movies. You know? Do you know what I mean?
question.
Oh,
I don't remember.
I see what you mean.
Did that kill
Yeah.
her?
I see.
Did
that? Yes, it killed her.
Okay, so the Jedi, again, for their own selfish thing, they wanted
Right.
Palpatine defeated and basically killed Rey.
So there you go. There's
That's what
another
I'm
thing.
talking
It's
about.
like,
Jedi suck. They're the worst. Jedi are terrible. We should get rid of a lot of them.
Oh,
Jason, what do you think?
Also,
do you think I'm crazy
just-
on this? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Oh,
Nick. Sorry.
you know that. Oh, am I going or is Jason going?
Go ahead.
Jason, you go. Oh, okay.
Everyone's so polite. All you Canadians are all so polite.
I think there's a
No,
slight
you go. No,
delay.
you go.
Yeah,
I'll be
it's
impolite. I'm
probably the delay
American.
on
Nick,
Zoom.
say what you want to say, and then Jason will say what he wants to say.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm pretty sure, like, this is just me, and I haven't done any research into it, but I'm pretty sure that the power that Kylo uses at the end of Rise of Skywalker and the one that Rey uses earlier in the film is that power that Anakin was trying to get in Episode 3 that was, like, super
Right.
duper dark side dangerous. Do not
Power
use.
of love and friendship.
No, it's the power to save Padme, like save the ones you love, but it's
Yeah,
like
to save the one you love, right? Yeah.
The thing is, like,
Palpatine says it's unnatural, right?
It's true love's kiss.
mean-
it's very Disney.
I don't know. It's probably not that because, again, it's Palpatine. He's almost never telling the truth, if at all. I can't really think of a single time he ever told the truth to anyone, to be honest. But I'm not sure now that I'm thinking about it.
In Episode 1,
Yeah,
he said that he would stop the blockade from happening. So I mean, I guess technically he did that. So Palpatine,
Yeah, for his
got
own
one.
gain. Yeah, for supreme power of the Senate. That's the only reason why he did that.
Man, he was so good. Like I said, like
I'm just gonna say the economy under Palpatine was pretty
was
good.
great. Like the galactic
I'm
stock
joking.
market was through the roof. Yeah, like I just finished watching Episode 1 like before we started. Like literally like maybe 15 minutes before we started, I finished it. And watching that, be like, he is playing Padme so well when she's on course. I'd be like, I mean, like, but Chancellor Valorum's done so much. Where it's like, yeah, but I mean, he's with the bureaucrats, and I'll stop the bureaucrats. And it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, poor Chancellor Valorum. I wonder what happened to him. Disney Plus.
He's in
I
Clone
want to know
Wars.
what happened to
He's in Clone
Chancellor
Wars.
Valorum and Broom Kid.
He's actually Valorum's in Clone Wars. He's retired.
They kill him
he
though.
lives on Coruscant and he gives some advice to Yoda, actually.
Oh, good for
About
Valorum.
Sifo Dyas. You know Sifo Dyas, the guy that's mentioned in Episode 2 who commissioned the creation of the clone troopers?
Mm-hmm.
They go into his origin story about how he died and everything and the creation of them. But yeah, and that part where Palpatine's like, please don't go back to Naboo, like, come here, stay here where it's safe. Like, he's totally trying to play the nice guy. Like, he's so trying to be like on his side and on her side, and he's, like you said, he's like, I don't know if but Valorum's done so much. I don't know if I'd be like as good of a leader as him. And it's like he said, he's like bureaucrat, and he's like,
I
Like,
would.
in his
Sorry.
head, he's like, oh well, I'm glad you say that. And then in his head,
Jason, before you take the floor, I was like watching that again. Like, so Bail Antilles from Alderaan is vying for chancellorship with someone from Malastare and Palpatine. And I'm
Italy
like,
team from Alistar. I don't know why I know that.
it's like, but I was like, Bela Antilles. It was like, so did he marry Organa and take Organa's name? Because that's pretty baller. Like, so did he marry a princess? So like, did the senator marry a princess? Is that how that
I don't know.
worked?
I think it's a different Bale. I think it's a different
Really?
dude,
So is Bale
to be
just like
honest.
the Andorian? I mean, the
Probably
Andorian,
never know.
the
We'll never know.
Alderaanian for like John. Is that what
Yeah.
that is?
Yeah. Bale.
Okay.
Bale. Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
That's something even I don't know, which is surprising, I guess.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
So many Antilles. Jason, what you got for us? Sorry.
Just answering Adrian's question. I do very firmly believe that, not to get too dramatic, but there is definitely a betrayal of the Star Wars mythos in Rise of Skywalker. The flip side of that is I really liked that movie a lot from start to finish.
I did
It had
too.
issues, but I wanted to see Kylo save the day, not so that he saved Rey, but because I just wanted to see him kick some ass.
Yeah, I want to see him be
Um,
like, he wants to save the day because he wants to save the day.
But
He
I can
wants to be the
understand.
hero.
I can understand them not wanting him to be the savior of that. They wanted Rey to finish that and to complete that, and he did have that moment with the Knights where he takes them out. So
Yep.
maybe that was his one little spotlight. So I was still super excited to see that ending, but it's
Yeah.
not the one I wanted to see. But I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I know there was lots wrong with it, but Adrian's point is very, very valid. That whole mythos there's like a what about the last 30 years
Yeah.
of stuff, or 40, whatever.
Yeah.
Those don't matter.
Yeah. Like
That's
it's just,
all
I don't
legends,
understand,
Jason.
'cause
Legends.
myths should always have a message, you know? Myths
Yeah.
should always have that, like that message behind it, and I think they just kind of muddied the message. I loved Kylo in the film. I loved his arc, and even Rey. I mean, I personally would have preferred Ryan Johnson's take to stay in terms of her being not related to anybody.
Yeah.
Just
Yes,
because that's
absolutely.
something kind of new to explore. That would have been really cool. But I get it. Like they went with the Palpatine thing, and I don't think that was necessarily horrendous choice. But yeah, it's just the moment of how Rey ultimately defeats evil that really bugged me. And then there's one other thing I'll throw up, and this kind of bugs me throughout the new movies. Is there's this kind of I feel like it's a misunderstanding of the Force, in that there's this kind of new thing that shows up in the new movies where it's like they used the Force so hard that they died. And I always felt that physical strength, like it happened to Leia, it happened to Luke, and then it happens to Kylo at the end. Physical strength was never something like your own personal, that never had anything to do with your ability to, judge me by my size, do you, with Yoda, right? And it was that this thing was like this sort of power that you could have access to if you were connected enough, and it was never like you had a mana jar that drains as you use it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that just kind of, I don't know, that kind of bugged me in the new movies. But I don't want to be curmudgeonly and just complain about things. But I don't know. It's just like it's weird that it's like you used it so much that now you're dead.
Luke's I really liked the way Luke did it in episode 8. I really liked. I think his made sense because he's not actually fighting anyone. Like physically, he's not actually doing anything. Like he uses up so much of his body and his life energy and his force that he just disintegrates basically.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't like
and
that.
That's it. You didn't like that?
But that's what I'm saying, is that there's no precedent for that in terms of the way
there's
the
no
Force
reason why Luke couldn't have just stayed living on that island enjoying life, but now feeling fulfilled, and he didn't have to die because he overused the Force.
Yeah, the way that they use the Force in the sequel stuff, it makes zero sense to me. Like I'm not like it's all super weird. Like if they could Force project, why weren't all of the Jedi Force projecting into the Council and
Because
instead
it
of using
kills
holograms.
them.
Is that it? It's like, do they just die? Did Luke die because he hadn't done enough force sit-ups? Like,
if they force project with a fly on their arm, do they become half fly?
Brundle Jedi or
Brundle Jedi fly.
that's
I
what
know that-
happened to Plo Koon. That's why he was in the mask. He
There you
was
go.
next to
Well,
like
that's
a
good.
droid, and
Well,
it just something weird.
in the prequels they have a reason for it, and it's because Palpatine is so in all of their heads. Like, he's obtained so much power at that by the end of episode 2 that he's basically got it down. Like, you know, he's controlling the Jedi. Like, that's the whole thing in Clone Wars is about, is like the Jedi just cannot think clearly because
why
their
couldn't
judgment
Qui-Gon
is
then?
so clouded.
Well, why couldn't Qui-Gon then? Because
Sorry?
Qui-Gon is like this outlier of Jedi people, and so is Obi-Wan and I mean, I guess, does Quinlan Vos, does he exist in this new stuff? Is he around?
Yes,
Okay.
he's referenced in Revenge of the Sith, but I don't think he ever shows up. What was he in? Was he in one of the books?
He was in the book stuff.
something?
He was very popular in the books and the comics. Like, he was like the man.
Yeah, he's referenced in Revenge of the Sith, but not sure about anything else. But yeah, anyway, that's all I was saying about that, is that the prequels, I think, explained it for that purpose, at least.
I have to just pick up my son from daycare, so I've got a jet.
Yeah, I was just about to wrap up, because I remember you said you had a hard out. So I'm just gonna do this for my sake.
Sure.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on and talking Star Wars. Let's do it again sometime soon. Maybe when more Star
Sure.
Wars comes out, and we can talk about that.
But
But first
to.
off,
Yeah, when that Obi-Wan series drops, I'd love.
that'd be fun.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
2024, you guys will be back on, and we'll do we'll do Obi-Wan. Nick, and where can everybody find you social wise?
I am on Twitter at Nick_Wolfhard, and I am on Instagram at the Wolfhard.
Nice. Adrian,
Adrian Petriw on Twitter and Adrian Petriw on Instagram.
Jason,
at @boy Simpson on Twitter and Simstagram.
It still makes Adrian laugh.
Simstagrams on Instagram.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh L. Cain. You can find the podcast on Instagram at What's Up Fandom, on Twitter at What's Up Fandom PC for podcast. All podcast episodes available: iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, animationstationpodcast.com. Be sure and rate and review us. The intro and outro are by 1 Outta 10. Follow them on social at 1 Outta 10. Check them out on Spotify. They do our intro and outro for us. Super cool band from here in beautiful Glendale, California. My name is Josh, and I'm upset that nobody mentioned my Star Trek shirt that I was wearing for this Star Wars thing. I was pretty upset that nobody mentioned that. So on that bombshell, thanks again, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I'm not the leading authority on action, poetic or using big words. But this writer is my philosophy about living in such a world.